I am going live. Welcome, everyone, to our Success Mastermind for Thursday, the 30th of September, 2021. Final day of September, final day of the third quarter. Fourth quarter is upon us. For our friends in Australia who are watching this, then you know fourth quarter is already upon you as you hear these words. So glad to be here with you guys. Hi, Virginia. Good to see you. Good to see Suzanne and Stefan. Welcome, everybody. I do want to announce something. It's kind of funny. Ego, if you're watching this, Ego just sent me the topic for practical entrepreneurial tips. And I was like, thank you. And so I went to find the recording because that happens at 4 a.m. my time. And I realized she's sending it to me in advance. It actually happens tomorrow. So I texted Ego back and I said, I can't find the recording. And so I'm feeling a little sheepish right now. Yeah, John, because it's tomorrow. Got it. All right. So thank you for all of our diligence with all of our co-hosts and facilitators here who hold down the fort and present some really awesome stuff. So anyway, tune in tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the morning, my time, which is what, noon, yes, noon BST. We're still on BST across the pond, right? So anyway, plus 8 hours for me. Anyway, Ego always brings the awesomeness. Ego is awesome. Today we have on the calendar brand builder with Shannon. You know, Shannon's amazing. She gets so much stuff done. She just launched the next iteration of the new and exceedingly awesome CEO Freedom Challenge. So for those of you who are running businesses and want to discover ways to do more and get more done in less time, highly recommend you check out the CEO Freedom Challenge. I can put a link somewhere in here. I'll put it on the YouTube video description as well, so people can get into that. CEO Freedom Challenge, and it's free, right? So go learn some stuff. Shannon is amazing. But she'll be back here with us at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight to talk a little bit about branding and how you can set yourself up with major advantages in terms of how you're perceived in the marketplace. So that's all really good stuff. And that's it for today. And then again, tomorrow, practical entrepreneurial tips. A couple things came up for me today. Good to see you, Mandy, and good to see you, Lindsay. A couple things came up for me today as I was listening to a lecture on my earbuds while I was in the gym. And it was the idea of forgiveness, the idea of moving on and forgiving whatever happened yesterday. And who do you guys think is the one person that most people have the hardest time forgiving? Can you guess? That's right, yourself. We've all heard the saying, I'm my own worst critic. Okay, that which I didn't do, I could have done, or I did and I shouldn't have done, right? And it's easy to walk around with a complex or a, not to use psychobabble or whatever, but to think less of oneself, having missed the mark, right? Which is actually the technical definition of sin, right? To miss the mark. Okay, so it's not a moral judgment, although we have no problem, it seems, judging ourselves morally. And it's also a good thing too, right? You've got a conscience, right? So I guess the extreme, let's just look at the complete opposite of what we're talking about here today. So it would be like a sociopath, right? Forgives themselves instantly. They didn't even notice. Oh, I just murdered somebody. Well, you know what? That was 10 seconds ago. Let me go on with my life. I mean, after all, some people need murdering, right? So that would be like the extreme opposite direction of probably where most conscious people are, right? So assuming you're not a sociopath, right? You've got a bit of a conscience, which is good. But how much do we identify with our transgressions, our having missed the mark, our acts of commission or omission, which were non-optimal, okay? And I think when I look at myself and I look at, well, you know what, in hindsight, 2020, I could have done that, I could have not done that. Sometimes it's easy for me to just park on the past. So when we talk about forgiving, what we're talking about is releasing the past. And since I showed up in that event, whatever it was, whether I felt like I was causing something or not causing something or whatever. But the fact that I was there, I'm culpable for having participated to whatever degree and whatever I feel like was not optimal. Now, here's the thing, and this has been a big thing for me, especially having grown up in a condition which, let's say, an environment in which reminded me again and again and again and again how insufficient I was, right? Going back to childhood, right? And all of us had one, I think, except Virginia. Did Virginia have a childhood? I don't know. Okay. Virginia is so youthful. Anyway, enough with that. But I love you, Virginia. You're awesome. The idea that we had some programming fed to us when we were arguably more impressionable than we are now, arguably, I don't know. Have you evolved? Maybe. I don't want to assume anything. Okay. But I know as children, we were certainly impressionable. Our experience of life was whatever was sold to us, right? We got that sales pitch just by virtue of the fact of the environment and family we were born into. In my case, it wasn't terribly resourceful, right? So there was a lot of invalidation and what people would nowadays call abuse, but the idea that I was not enough. And couple that with, if you want a little neurosis, there's no way that you can be enough. In other words, there's nothing you can do about it. Now, how do you go past something like that? How do you get off of that programming, or how do you forgive that conditioning? And again, I'm talking about forgiving ourselves. I have to look at it like this, right? What part of this can I be responsible for? The past is the past, and I may have, and I would argue that I have forgiven, whatever those outside inputs were. They can't affect me anymore. I'm not little boy John, right? But okay, do I give myself permission to rewrite those scripts or to abandon? Here's the thing: to abandon some of my most closely held beliefs, whether they serve me or not. Okay. And that's what we've got to assess. Are these beliefs serving me, and who sold me these beliefs? So I may have forgiven, well, they did the best they could and that's all they knew. And you know what? They were sick too. And okay, they're not even, some of these people are dead. So what am I going to do? Walk around and bitch and moan about what happened to me as a child? A lot of people do. Okay. But what part of this can I be responsible for? Me. Responsibility, the R word, that sends most people running in the other direction. Okay, well, what I could be responsible for is how I interpret that now, or how I blindly keep running scripts that were sold to me by ignorant but perhaps well-meaning people. I don't know. I've already forgiven that, right? How do I forgive myself for having bought that deal? Anybody ever buy a deal that wasn't a very good deal? And then I'm not just talking about buyer's remorse. It's like, oh my goodness, I just spent $100,000 and I don't know if I should have on the car, right? It's just a car. We've had that experience. In fact, the numbers have been higher, but but can I go ahead and say, after having revealed, having looked, and maybe after, getting some emotion out of it, have we not all looked and said, you know what, I could have made a better decision in that way. I could have seized the opportunity there. I could have, said no to that opportunity there. There's lots of choices that I've made, some of which are not optimal. And are we able to then forgive ourselves for having bought or not bought that deal? In other words, for having transgressed or having made the wrong decision. Now, look, none of us have a crystal ball, so we can all give ourselves a break here for a minute. I know we can all be our own worst critics. Okay, but granted, you did not have a crystal ball. So you made the best decisions with the information that you had at the time, which brings me to what? What information are we making our decisions on? If we're going to forgive the past, if we're going to say, you know what, I did whatever I could do then, I know more now. Aha, you know more now. So now, can we make decisions? And can we, as the person who has released the past, can we go ahead and move forward confidently? And I think there's the magic word, confidently that we've got good data, that we believe enough in ourselves that we can, whether we make an optimal decision or a suboptimal decision, that we can make it right. I don't make all the right decisions, but I can make them right. I can make them right. Now that I've decided, now that I'm moving, I can correct course, but not if I'm anchored to it's never enough, or I'm never enough, or whatever the story is that runs again and again and again. Now, I am not in a position, nor would I say that I'm qualified to, via a Zoom call or something, to dig into the deep psychological causations and ramifications of the topic that I just brought up. So we're going to keep it kind of light, kind of surface. All right. But if you want to go down this rabbit hole, it runs deep. But since we're willing and able to look in present time, since we're willing and able to look at, here are the scripts that I'm running right now. Here are obviously, if we just look at our calendar, we look at what we did yesterday, we look at what we did in the past 3 quarters of this year, which are coming to an end today. Okay. If we look at that and we could say, you know what, here's the patterns. Here are the patterns that I keep showing up as that. All right. And then just ask ourselves, as objectively as we can be, as if we were not even the person who performed those actions, we can ask ourselves, are those optimal actions? Or if I was the boss, and you are, okay, but if you remembered that you were the boss and you looked at what this person, this individual, which happens to be you, but you looked at what they did over the last 9 months, would you continue to pay them their salary? Great question. And now, again, objectively, without the emotion, we're not even talking about you anymore now, right? We're just talking about deeds which occurred, actions which occurred or did not occur, right? We're just looking at, here are those activities which somebody did or didn't do. Is that optimal? Is that what I'm paying for? And if the answer is yes, fantastic. But is there anyone here who can't, find some way to improve something? Right? I mean, if so, please, I'll stop talking. You can host a session. You're up. I have lots of things that I could improve. Okay. And hindsight's 2020, as we already recognized. But here's the point, that to identify with or as the non-optimal situations or failures or transgressions or whatever, to identify as that, rather than just the observer of that and the person who can then put it where it belongs in the past, right? Causes me to what? To keep running the damn script, to keep being identified as, like, my identity is that. Wrong answer. We could say human beings, not human doings. Okay. So who is showing up now? Now, meaning now, who is showing up, and what decisions can I make based on more data, which would be more resourceful decisions moving forward? I think this is the essence of forgiveness in terms of ourselves. I think if we just say, you know what, these are the things that pleasing, not pleasing, objective assessment and evaluation of those things. Okay, fine. And now moving forward, reset button, moving forward. Here are my strengths. Here are the things that were weak. Let me go ahead and bolster those up, or whatever I got to do, manage those weaknesses. And now moving forward, I will make more optimal decisions. As the person who has this goal, has this future, I'm moving towards something, not just away from something. I've already forgiven that. Now I'm moving toward something of a higher nature. That releases a lot of emotion. I think if we can hit that psychological reset button. I know there is no physical one. I suppose you could manufacture one or cause one to be, right. I've got this. I've got something right here. I've got this little clock that sits on my desk. It's a little clock. It's got like a metal, frame. It's got a little clock, and on the other side is a picture. There's my sweetie on her first little fishing trip. Okay, I could use this as the reset button, right? I could do one of those. All right, so if you want symbols, right, or you want to enact something, you can figure that out. But the idea that we could forgive, even, all right, we talked about the past, right? Okay, well, when is the past? Well, 10 seconds ago was the past, right? And again, I'm not saying go sing your ass off and then, well, that was 10 seconds ago, right? Don't go be a sociopath. But I'm just saying that had you blundered, and because you've got your conscience, right, and because you're aware of stuff, you can go ahead and say, let's start this day over. I actually did this with my daughter when she was toddler and then, moving into being a little girl, right? And she would get all, sometimes real sideways on stuff and cranky pants and all this. Did we actually coin that word, cranky pants? I've heard other people say it now. I don't know if that's a Lavenia original, but that came out of Shannon, and I was like, man, that is perfect, cranky pants. But she would get all cranky, and so I did this thing where I was like, okay, let's go ahead and let's reset the day. Okay, so like all that stuff that just happened, I say let's start our day over, and I've got a magic button. And if we click this button, it resets the whole day. And I held out my finger. I said, when you click this button, we're going to start the day over. And she's cranky and sad, and she played along. She clicked the button. Good morning, Trinity. How are you? We're going to have a great day today, aren't we? Yeah, we are. Okay, great. Would you like some breakfast? And it worked. And it worked. Okay. Now we could say, in fact, to this day, I haven't done it recently, maybe a few months ago, but to this day, I can hold up this finger. She'll click it, and we'll all right, present time. All right, got it. All right, moving forward now. What are we going to do? So now you might say, well, it's a baby, right? It's a child, right? They don't have all the other stuff swimming around in their head. Okay, maybe they can forgive better than we can. Maybe that's the lesson. Maybe that's it right there. To be childlike, right? To be simple. I'm not saying go be a simpleton. Okay. So yes, I was saying more than you did before when you made non-optimal decisions. So yes, please know stuff. Okay. But as I think, it was Wayne Dyer who I think coined this word, a forgettery. You want to develop a forgettery to go along with your memory. So yes, I've got a memory, but I've also got my forgettery. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about forgiveness, to hit that reset button, to forget, to release, to abandon that which I was so damn attached to before, my position. Let me assert my rightness. Let me defend my position. Let me argue for how right I am and think I have to be. I think I have to be right. Because after all, that programming, right? Little Johnny was never right, not quite right enough. So who is asserting their rightness now? I think this is some fun introspection, right? And if it's something that, look, I hope this serves you. Okay, I know this is really, really loose, right? Which makes it what? Really broad reaching. So whether we're talking about business, relationships, health, well, you didn't hit the gym yesterday. Hey, you know what? It's today now. All right. So there's lots of things you could do more optimally based on decisions you can make in present time, but not if you're just dragging the past with you like this ball and chain and somehow have to defend your. So anyway, I hope this serves you. I think this does. I'd love to hear any ideas or feedback on this. So the floor is open. I do see a few more of our most awesome members in the world have joined us. Welcome, you guys. So if you'd like to come on out, please do so. I don't think, yes. Well, here's Virginia. Hi, Virginia. You got some thoughts on this?
I always have some thoughts. They're not always worth sharing, but
well, let's hear it.
In our family, I love the example of the pushing the reset button. That is really great. And I can just picture Trinity passing that on to her children. What my daughter does here for my 9-year-old grandson, and she's been doing that for a few years because he gets a little ADHD, hyper-focused, is the reset. She does a let's breathe, 20 breaths out, 20 breaths in, and he'll do that. And now he'll just say, okay, I just have to, I think he uses the word center myself, but it's something like that. I just have to refocus, and she'll breathe. So she's starting that now with the 4.5-year-old. It's fine. Let's just start over. Everything's going to be okay. The other thing that came to mind went right back out again. So I'm trying to think of what it was.
Well, I like the whole centering thing. Yes,
I know. We really only, in our circle of training and upbringing, have, in most families, the grandparent, the parent, and the child, very rarely do you go into great grandparents or great great greats, or so all those generations prior and all those generations to come. You're just on either side. So you might have, when I look at history and I look at these wonderful families that have survived generations and centuries, that they've always been, the Rothschilds, the whatever, and they've had a way of passing on their good qualities, their success strategies, whatever, so the lineage would continue. But normal families don't always do that. I think if we could have just learned from all the people the family members that have gone before us, oh my gosh, we should have no issues whatsoever. We should have gleaned all this knowledge from the ages, but we don't. We only have the influence of the generation before and the generation after, and they perpetuate. So it's I'm not sure really what to make with that. I just find it's an observation. So if you had an abusive upbringing, you're changing that with your child. So then so now you're going to be the grandparent one day, she's going to be the parent, and she's going to continue that change with her child until somebody else comes along who then gets abusive with their kids, and then it starts over again. So it's just kind of an influence of those before you and those after you. Does that make any sense?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Totally. That brings up an enormous consideration, which people have studied, like cycles in families, right? And also like in societies, right? So here is the hardworking, the grandfather, the patriarch, what have you, and then the family rose and fortune, and then that generation of the trust fund baby, and by the third generation, they're on the downward, right? And then which brings up, like, on a more of a macro sense, here is that, what was the saying? Civilizations are rise in work boots and fall in slippers or loafers or something, right? So here's the another way of saying that was hard times make strong men make good times make weak men make hard times make strong men, right? So that cycle, which is there a way to flatten that? I don't know. There's a lot of people studying civics and civilizations that are attempting to answer that question. Is it not human nature to just take the path of least resistance until somebody shows up and says the buck stops here and it's the upward swing again? I ask myself that a lot. Like I'm thinking, with Trinity, you mentioned my daughter, right? Is me giving her every advantage I could possibly create for her, and no, I'm not abusive, and all that, right? So I think that's what we just have a higher standard, okay? But the fact that she pretty much has everything she wants, and she's got a good life. Like, she's got a really good life.
Are you putting her in slippers? Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to
Am I
ask
putting her in
yourself that
slippers?
question.
Right. Holy crap! Right now, we got her into karate, so she's getting toughened up. She's not a total princess anymore, where a snowflake hits her, and so I think that's helpful. And she's also experiencing entrepreneurship, right? The rewards and the struggles of that. So I'm doing the best I know to do. Thank you, Virginia. Huge insight. Virginia, everybody. Yeah.
I was reading about Angelina Jolie the other day. I don't know where, Facebook somewhere, you go down a rabbit hole. And her kids that she has adopted, she makes them learn a language. Everybody's got to learn a second language. One of them is learning sign language as a second language. And B, they all have what you would consider a foundation that's a charity. So they pick a charity that they're interested in. And I mean, they're all diverse. Somebody's got like a wildlife refuge charity in Africa or something. So they are managing and focusing on, this is where our money's going to go. This is where our work is going to go into, besides growing up as a kid and doing the normal education and growing up. They are, and I thought that was really great what she was doing. She is making them focus on a charitable organization and what they can do to create one or better one.
Wow.
Also gives you meaning. If you maybe won't get so much in the slippers, if you have
Right.
meaning that you're doing a greater good. Maslow's hierarchy.
Right. Right. Yeah. Introducing higher purpose than just, you getting stuff or something. Right. I like that. Yes. And we do. And we do. So there you go. Thank you, Virginia. Because now I'm wondering, I'm taking inventory, thinking, all right, what could I do? What haven't I done? Right. So thank you, Virginia. So looking forward to meeting you in person.
I know. We're gonna hope it's not too dusty out there when we're.
Oh yeah, it's the desert. Yeah, you'll get some dust, but you can bundle yourself up with a schmog, right? We'll all run around wearing schmogs in the desert. We'll look like Arabian Nights or something. So, all right. Anybody else? Any other thoughts you want to share today? I do see some other awesome people here with us. Come on out. Anybody else want to talk? Commence talking. Hello, Mandy. Hi, Mandy.
Hello, John. Hi. Yeah, following on from a couple of things that Virginia said, because I started tracing the family tree back, and it's amazing what you find. But in a way, the grandparents are always with us until you break that script, because they are giving the script to their children give it to you, you give it to your children. So when you did the button bit, which I really liked as well, because she, as you say, she can do that all the time and just press that button. So you're breaking anything or scripts that you may have been passing down from your family before, and that's something that I think it's really important as parents to do. So with my son, we never got hugs, so I made sure that one of the things I did with my son was always hug him from the start, so that I could make it so that our family was a huggy family. And I think if you can break that script as you go along, I think that's really good. Going back to what you earlier said about not beating yourself up and all this sort of thing. Well, there was one bit, I have been down this rabbit hole for the past 3 days. And so it's really funny because responsibility is coming back up again. But we see it a slightly different way, which is the ability to respond. Yeah, that's what we've discussed, isn't it? So one of the things that happened to me was in 2020, so just before Blue Sky, I was made redundant. But I was made redundant in such a way that I didn't necessarily believe in the process. So over here, we were taken over by another company. My role went 4 ways because it was a bigger company that took it over. I tried another role. I tried to trust the process. And then we got to a consultation. And they made that consultation so that the amount of money that it was now going to be worth was £10,000 less than what I was actually earning, which just happened to be a bit more money than the person who was in another role with me and matched some other roles they'd recently put in, because I was on a high salary for that business. But I trusted them to start with, and that's where I think I felt a bit betrayed by trusting them. But so we went down this consultation process and COVID hit. So we had our interview online. And there was no test to test out whether she knew what I knew, because I mean, her and me were fine. We both said, this is the situation. We're just going to do this. But there was no test. The questions were very biased towards some of the things she would have known. That's how I felt. I could have been wrong, but that's how I felt. And so I was engineered out in a way. And I had a choice then of how to respond to it. And I chose to respond in a way that I felt was better for me. I was upset about it, but I said, okay. He said, we can go through the questions. We can tell you what's been happening and all that lot. And I said, no, I don't want to know, because at the moment that is not in my benefit, because I did not believe the process was correct anyway. So I said, okay, this is what it is. And I took 2 weeks off, licked my wounds, went back, and then I just worked out my next couple of weeks. And then Blue Sky popped up. And so I think it's really important to, if I had responded in a way which was, oh, it's really bad, and I did get £800 more out of them through the solicitor. That was one little bit. It was like, oh, because we couldn't take them to court otherwise anyway. So did all that. But the only thing that I think is still difficult, which is the thing that I was still working on, is that yes, you can reset the button and you can say, right, that was a past. That's great. Okay, I'm now moving forward, which is what I did. But you've still got to stop running those scripts. And that's the bit that's not always so easy, is to stop running the script that you're running in your head, which is what I'm still working on now.
Yeah.
But I think if you can at least get to that point where you recognize that and say, okay, that's the past. Forgive yourself for those mistakes. You did what you did, as you know, you do what you know at the time of what you know. You can't know anything else. The same with the future. You don't know what's going to be in any situation, but just forgive yourself and then try to find a way to stop running those scripts. If you can do it by just saying, this is resetting, I'm not running those scripts, that's great. But like you say, it does go a lot deeper. But I think it's a good conversation, and yeah.
Well, back to the idea of responsibility, Amanda, you're willing to challenge yourself. You're willing to look. How many people aren't? How many people that all they do is defend their own position and assert their rightness? And where's the evolution in that, right? I mean, they can't even confront a conflicting idea. So how can you respond? How can you, ability to respond? No, they just react. And it's the same damn error over and over and over again.
Yeah, 100%.
Insane. Yeah. Thank you for being sane. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Stefan, are you sane too? I think so. Come on out here, Stefan. Tell us something good. Where is Stefan? I'm not hearing Stefan. He's unmuted, but it's not working. Something's not. Can anybody hear Stefan?
No. Yes, how are you?
Oh, there he is. Really bad connection, I think. Perhaps it's just like a mega delay.
Yeah. Oh, 1 second.
Yeah, it appears that Stefan's connection is like.
I talked about this.
Okay, let's see if we can hear Stefan.
Come on. Am I gone?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. So I was going to say, because, that's always been the hardest thing for many of us is, forgiving ourselves, like you were saying. But it's, it's funny. You just said something that I just told to Virginia was that, sorry.
And he's gone. All right.
Talked last week. I was licking my wound. I snapped out of it, got back to work, and figured out a temporary solution. And it's, you can do. You gotta take that moment. And right now, I'm trying to figure out what the next step is. So, just working on it.
Well, we're glad you're here, Stefan. We caught part of that, and just so you know,
yeah,
a lot
there's
of people
bad service out here.
Yeah, it's really bad. But a lot of people believe in you, and including your mother, who's here with you. I think about how awesome is that relationship, right? Where here's, as Virginia was mentioning, multiple generations of people who are solution oriented, right? I think that's precious. I think that's awesome. So,
and on top of that, with my mom, I don't want to share too much. What she wants to share now. She had a conversation about doing it, and she's made that like her motto, and the result has been amazing. So,
okay. Well, thank you again, Stefan. We're going to have to get you better coverage or something, because we're getting like half of what you're saying, but we are glad you're here, my friend. Thank you. All right. So with that, anybody else have any closing ideas on this? Closing ideas? All right. So then why don't we do this? We're going to get together tonight, show up for Brand Builder. Shannon's got some ideas to share with you. And then, of course, Ego OB tomorrow at noon BST. All right. And of course, I'll be back here with you for Fun Friday. Everybody good? Everybody good? Okay. Let's go ahead and wrap up with that. We'll see you